Well, hello. So today I'll be interviewing my two parents. If you guys could introduce yourselves for my cultural assignment.
I'm Nancy Palmer, Andy's mom.
And Michael Hops, Andy's dad.
Wait, I couldn't hear you. Sorry, Dad.
I'm Michael Hops, Andy's dad.
There we go. Okay. And
Don't
so,
get
okay,
closer.
so to start out, the first question I would like to ask you guys is how would you describe your own culture?
I would describe my culture as when I was being raised, you mean?
Yeah, just being raised, yeah, and
Or
yeah.
just now?
I think both a little bit. Would you get to touch on?
Well, because I was raised in a middle class culture, a middle class neighborhood in a large city. And and my culture had real specific norms. Most of the people in my culture were college graduates. Um, they were professionally employed. We didn't have a lot of laborers in our neighborhood that I was aware of anyway. And what else would I say? You say yours.
My culture is I'm a white male from a small town in the middle of Minnesota. And I grew up as an only child. And so my culture was, my dad was a worker, he was a custodian, not a professional. And so I grew up in a, I suppose, lower middle class or middle class household of some kind. We all thought we were middle class at the time, still do. And but yeah, that's sort of conservative, I suppose. Conservative in the sense of church going and not spendy people. That's so conservative fiscally and but then that way, but not politically. And I'm still most of those things except the church going part.
Well, yeah, bouncing off of that thing. I don't know. We went to church when I was young too, and that was a big part of our family history. It was part of a conflict that took place in the home, and um, and we all spoke English. We lived in a white neighborhood where just about everybody in our neighborhood was white, and my dad had a few friends that were other race, and other than that, we didn't even see people who were colored unless we went downtown shopping. And
Yeah,
so,
yeah. Sounds like it sounds a lot like Brainerd, a lot, just like, not really
it
that many.
was just on a bigger scale though.
Yeah.
And yeah, and so, but we had a one income family. We didn't have a lot of money to spend either. We had 5 people living in a 3 bedroom house, 6 people rather living in a 3 bedroom house. And 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 it was a step up for my mother to even have that situation from her culture that she was raised in. And it was even different than my dad. My dad was raised in a rural culture and with mostly white people. So it was the culture my parents created was different than the ones that they came from.
Yeah, for sure. Let's see. Second question we got here is what kind of hardships have you experienced because of your culture, would you say? 'Cause I think for me, for example, I think just being, living in like a place where, I'm one of the only, one of a very few minorities. I think for me, it's just like, for in certain instances, I haven't got a job for that, for that sole reason, I think. And yeah, other things like that. But I'm just wondering, yeah, what hardships you experienced.
I can't think of any hardships that I've experienced because of my culture. Again, white male. And so things work out pretty well for me just by the nature of the way society is organized.
Yeah.
Not that, I haven't done some lot to make things happen to benefit me, but I certainly see the benefit of education and all the other benefits that go along with being a white, bigly middle class person. Yeah. Never got profiles or anything or no.
As a woman,
Yes.
being raised in a white culture, I had a lot of things that were hard for me. Employment was one of them, and job opportunities, the idea of that I could even accomplish or become certain things was not encouraged or was kind of denied me. I had fewer choices as to what I wanted to become when I grew up, because I could be a nurse, or I could be a secretary, I could work in a store, or I could be a teacher. Yeah, it's what women were focused on. I had no sports opportunities because girls didn't play in sports professionally or even intramurally in school. So I didn't have the opportunity to be encouraged physically to express myself. Yeah, so I don't know. Those kind of things made a big difference as far as the schools that I chose or could choose to go to extend my education after high school. They had to be schools that my parents could afford.
Yeah, I guess I
And
really, yeah. Yeah, I guess I really
yeah,
never think about that because like, in these days it's like so commonplace, women are like in all these like Division 1 sports and now like with like the soccer leagues and now they're like, it's
mhm,
very commonplace to see like, women just making it, all levels, and like you see like which is really good. You see, the fact like, that every college level, like, even going up from like, JUCO, below Division 3, like, at CLC, for example, which essentially is college, like there's like women's sports and then just up the
mhm.
ladder, you see like the same, which is I think is really great, that we've come that far where everyone has like an opportunity to, do what they want to do, play their sport.
I
Let's
would have played basketball if I could have.
there
You
you
would
go.
have
I
been,
was 5'3", but I would have played basketball because I was
you would have
fast.
been great too.
I was
There you
fast.
go.
And I got to play those sport games when I was in elementary school because I went to the same grade school till 8th grade. And so they didn't have enough boys on the team. So the girls who wanted to play could play too.
For sure.
So that was where I got to know myself.
What would you guys say? What does it mean to be part of your culture?
You'd be part of
I
it.
think one thing it means is privilege in
Sure.
comparison to the rest of the world. We may have had struggles within my specific culture and stuff, but I still, even at, 50 years ago, had more opportunities than, I don't know, 60% of the world's females have right now or more. My dad always told me that my opportunities, because of my ability and stuff, was always in the 90th percentile. So I was ahead of 90% of the people that were in our culture because, my education, my parents' education, both my parents were college graduates. Those things were really rare in those days.
That's true. Yeah.
Hmm. What's the question? What benefit do we get from being part of our culture?
Let's see. What does it mean to be part of your culture?
Does it mean to be part of our culture?
Yeah.
It means we're the way of, we're how America thinks of itself. We're middle class white people. That's what everybody in America thinks they are or wants to be. And that's what a lot of things in America are directed toward, don't you think? A
Oh,
lot of
definitely.
advertising and a lot of the culture is directed toward middle class white people.
We're the consumers.
No,
But
we're the deciders of things.
I think is that I had a sense of security growing up, being part of my culture that I was in. I had a sense of, because of my mother's influence and emphasis on education and stuff, I never doubted that I would be able to go to college. And, so there were just so many opportunities still that enriched my life. I took some art lessons. I, had swimming lessons. I had things like that that a lot of kids in those days didn't. They just played in the backyard.
Mm.
Yeah.
About college, I have to say, my mom, particularly, and my dad, would often say, well, when you go to college, this is how this will be. Well, when you go to college, so you can study that. When you go to college. So I just had the impression from early on, I was going to go to college. That's the way it was going to be. It was a great thing that they did for me. And then they sent me to college. So, it worked out fine. Yeah.
Let's see. Let's the next question
I
here.
got the benefit of all of that.
Um, how have you experienced joy or happiness because of your culture? It's a pretty good one.
Well, I think joy and happiness comes from a sense of belonging.
Hmm.
And so in my culture, I didn't always have a sense of belonging because I wasn't associated with an ethnic group that gave me a sense of belonging. And, you know, somewhat at church, when we went to church, that was a sense of belonging. But other than that, you know, it was a free agent. And I think the more the sense of belonging to me came from living in the neighborhood that I lived in the cities. I belonged to that neighborhood. I belonged to my elementary school. I belonged then to my high school community. You know, it was those kind of communities that still exist today. But I wasn't Norwegian. I didn't go and celebrate, you know, certain holidays in a certain way or anything like that.
What? When I was growing up, everybody looked like me. When Nancy was talking, that's just what I thought of. All the kids in my school looked like me. All the kids in town looked like me. I looked like them. I was just part of that culture. So there was no me thinking of myself that I was different from anybody because everybody was the same as I was in that town, right? When we were growing up. And so, but I don't know what the question is, but the answer
A
is
sense of belonging.
a sense of belonging.
No, what was the question, Andy?
It was, have you experienced joy or happiness because of your culture?
Yeah.
I don't know if joy happened because of the culture, but it was just whatever joy, happiness I experienced was in the culture. Was part of the culture, right? I had a good family to be part of. I had lots of cousins and other people that hang around with and stuff, and so
Yeah, I experienced that kind of joy, family, and just the general joys of the community, but no particular benefit of
me being part of the culture because I didn't realize I was a part of the culture.
Right.
Because it was such an all-pervasive thing. The general whiteness of my community was it's like being a fish in the water. You know,
Yeah, I think joy and happiness were a personal experience that I had. It wasn't really related to my culture, although I may not have had those same joys and happiness outside of my culture. I just had one example. When I was a freshman in high school, I went to a school that was about 4 miles from our house that was in the black neighborhood, and it was 50% black. And I was coming from a school of 30 kids, all white.
30 kids.
30 kids in my class.
Oh, your class.
Yeah, we only had one class per grade. And we went K through 8th grade in this one school. And I'd lived in that community and that culture of that community.
Minnesota.
Right. With all these old single teachers teaching school and everybody, we had one male who taught in the school. Anyway, so I go to this other school, Central High School in St. Paul, and I am all of a sudden walking amongst 5,000 kids in this building who are going to their classes, and it's up and down the halls, and I had no idea where I was going, and the kids, black kids and stuff, are jostling each other around and shouting and having this whole experience that was the black culture in that school. And I had no communication with that or no linkage to that whatsoever. And I became very shy and very withdrawn.
Oh, yeah. Well, you've gotten over it though. Maybe.
Well, then I went to the mostly Jewish school, and I didn't fit in there either because I wasn't a genius. I was smart, but I wasn't a genius. And so I wasn't Jewish either. And so I didn't really fit into that culture either.
Yeah. Let's see. What's our next question here?
Yes.
Let's see. How do you think your culture differs from mine? I think every culture in Greater Minnesota differs from mine. To be honest, you know.
Well, but what do you consider to be your culture? Because you're one of us. You've said you think of yourself as a white person, essentially. So how can our culture differ much from yours? Because we raised you to be part of
I
our
can
culture.
say a few things.
You can.
Yes.
Okay.
I can say because in your culture, things are not as easily defined or clearly defined as they are in our culture, where we kind of had this, do that, you know, you're all going to college, you're going to do this, you're going to go and start working because you're 15 years old, you have to get a job. We had certain expectations within our culture to contribute. And then we had certain things that were consistent. And I think, you know, in response, when we did this, we knew this was going to happen. And in your culture, you don't always know that because, you know, the response is changing all the time. And you have a different culture in the sense that you're hooked into the social media and that kind of thing. So that's a huge part of your existence in the world and how you see yourself in the world and all of that. And how you've learned about yourself is using the media too, which isn't really a part of how I define myself.
But outside of the relative modernity of our respective cultures, we're old and young.
Yeah.
But do we really perceive Andy to be any different culturally than we are? No, he's our kid, right? Because I'm not sure.
You expect food to show up, you expect transportation to show up, you expect money to show up. You know, you feel, I think he feels more entitled than we did. I don't think I felt very entitled in my life. Yeah.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
guess like for instance, like yeah, I think like for instance, like whenever I was like at the house, I always felt like like I don't know, like I fit in with the culture, that was fine, and then like I feel like when I'm out of school, it's almost like I never really thought about this, but like I mean going to high school, middle school, it's like oh my gosh, I'm like I don't know, I really never thought about it when like people unless someone like mentioned it to me or if I was being bullied by someone, like in middle school and high school or something like that, which I wasn't really bullied that much in high school, but in middle school I was a lot, but like I never really thought about it, I guess, I just always thought like only the times when it was brought to my attention that I was like, oh, okay, I guess. I don't know.
I know, because I used to say stuff to you. Do you think that person responded to you because they're prejudiced against brown skinned people or something? And you'd look at me like, what are you talking about? I don't, and then you'd start going, well, maybe. And then eventually you said, yeah, that guy is, it came into your realization later on in life.
Yeah. And then let's just see.
I've often tried to encourage you to accept and enjoy your Mayan Indian culture, your heritage. And you've always been reluctant to do that.
That's why we brought you to Guatemala so many times. In Central America.
Yeah, let's see. What's the next question? How do you think our cultural differences have affected our relationship, if at all? I don't really think it has at all, but
Well, I think we used to really worry about culturally, like the music you listen to, like you got into rap music.
yeah.
And we were really, really worried because they said F-U-C-K in just about every song, and they smashed the, degraded women and stuff in the early rap culture. And I was really worried that that would affect you. Oh, yes, you kind of really loved it.
I don't really listen to rap music that much anymore, funnily enough.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's kind
Well,
of a
then we
phase.
wondered what trail you're going to take down the road there, where you become some big drug dealer or something because you're listening to this influencing this culture,
Yeah,
this.
I think it was just really a phase. I was just like, because I mean, I feel like everyone like, growing up, like Nick Teets and all those guys, would always be kind of listening to that music. And I was always just surrounded by that. I was like, oh, cool, this is good, this is fun. It was just kind of just trying to fit in with them, kind of like that skate culture, and just kind of, even though I didn't skateboard, but they were all skateboarding and doing their own doing their thing, go over there every day. And I just like, yeah, that's what they would all be listening to. And I'd be like, oh, cool. Or most of them, I think I would listen to that. Yeah.
Well, and our cultures were different in the sense that we took you places. Nobody ever took me any place, maybe camping or something. Also, just different opportunities, I think, that you've had that we created with you. We were experiencing it for the first time too, sometimes. Like the traveling stuff. I wasn't an experienced traveler when I started traveling with you. Yeah, I had something else too. Now I can't think of what it was. How is your culture different than ours? Is that what the question was?
Let's see. How do you think our cultural differences have affected our relationship?
How do you think that? Have you ever thought that question?
I can't really hear you, sorry.
How do you think about that question? Have you thought about that?
I don't really think it really has. I don't know. Yeah, I don't really think like just like for you two in general. Like I mean, outside of like the family, I don't think it really has. I mean, like like with you two at least, and then like and like with Ellen and Ed, just like the whole family, I don't think it affects anything at all. I think it's just like once you get out into the world beyond that, sometimes it's a little bit, I don't know. But I think that really like when you look at like just like the family and stuff like that, and just the home, yeah, it's never really affected. I guess. I
You
don't
know,
know.
one thing I thought of with that too, Andy, is that you had the culture of ski golf. Remember, I mean, if you had a real strong, you have a strong belonging to that place.
Oh, for
And
sure,
I
yeah.
think, yeah, that's something I've never
Our
experienced.
local ski hill.
Yeah.
Yeah, Mount Ski, yeah. But yeah, I always loved there. Yeah.
Right. That's your place to hang out, huh?
Mhm.
Oh yeah.
Still is,
Yep.
still is.
Let's see.
So when we took you to Guatemala, I think the last time we did that when you were in second grade for a month, you and I went, and then when you were in sixth grade or so, we went with Cindy and Christian. Did you feel you were a part of Guatemala? Did you feel any connection to those people? We kind of did when we went when you were in second grade. We had fun.
I mean, honestly, I just thought it was like a fun trip. I felt like a tourist there.
What's that?
I just feel like I'd make an American tourist there. I guess thinking back, I've thought about that a few times, because like I'm
Yeah.
not really ever gonna like go live there my whole life. My roots are gonna be in, I'm always gonna stay in the United States. Uh,
Yeah.
so like I don't know. I guess like I never really had a big connection. I don't really want to go spend the money to try to find if even if she's alive, like my, mother, birth mother there. So I guess I
Mhm.
don't know. I guess whenever I go there, it's just like, okay, cool. I'm gonna go experience the culture, gonna learn some stuff. Even as a
Yeah.
kid, maybe learn some Spanish. Like that when I went to like
Mhm.
that Spanish school for a little bit there. But other than
Yeah.
kind of just like, I don't know. I'm just here for a quick vacation. It's not really like,
I think one of the funny things was there is that you always would get nervous that they'd expect you to speak Spanish and no Spanish because they did. They looked at you and they went blah 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 in Spanish, and you'd look at, you
yeah,
didn't want to.
I still
Or
have it a
just
lot. Like, I mean, sometimes in just everyday life, like someone will like, someone of a Hispanic, Latino descent will look at me and they'll just start talking to me in Spanish. And I'll just
Mhm.
look at them like the first thing I always say, I'm like, it's just trained in my brain. No habla español.
Oh, good.
At least
Good.
you knew
There you go.
that.
There you
No,
go.
but like before they
Yeah.
can finish,
Doña está el baño.
usually before they can finish their sentence, I'm like, no habla español. And they just look
Oh,
at me like,
good.
oh, okay. They start talking English. So it's always awkward. I always hate that. I mean, not hate, but I strongly
Yeah,
dislike. I just like to be able to, I like speaking English, because that's.
yeah.
But I understand where they're coming from because they see me, they're like, oh, he's not white, he's Hispanic or Latino, he knows Spanish automatically, and I mean, which isn't a bad thing at all. Like, but they
Mhm.
just automatically
Be
expect that.
nice if you did. Yeah.
Yeah, it'd be cool. Yeah, I wish a
I
little bit.
think that would expand your cultural experiences quite a bit if you learned Spanish.
Yeah, let's
You're
see.
pretty good at it as a kid.
Sure.
Let's see. And what do you appreciate about our cultural differences?
Well, we haven't established a bunch of them,
Yeah.
so it's hard to say what we appreciate.
Well, you've kept us young, if that's part of our cultural difference, the difference in age, I suppose, and the culture that you've brought to us has been interesting to us.
I never would have listened to rap music without you.
Yeah, I guess
I've
like
had a lot of I've had a lot of drives in the country,
Yeah.
taking you skiing and stuff like that.
yeah, I think just like I mean like for pop culture because I always have like some game on or some like whether it's like a European soccer, I think
Or in sports, you changed our world with sports for sure.
You got me to like football, and I actually pay attention to watching football. And when I go to baseball and soccer games together,
You took me to soccer and I had a great time.
yeah. Oh yeah,
Yeah.
fun fact, they're coming back to Minneapolis. It's announced on June 1st. Fun fact, but
June
okay.
1st.
yeah, June 1st. I just saw that
I'm going to be living in the cities when I
June
get home
1st.
so I can see those kids.
Yeah,
June 1st or June 2nd. Yeah, they just announced. Just
the
cool.
women's national team.
Yeah, yep, they just announced they'll be coming to
They play a clean game. I like them.
to play South Korea.
Oh my
Oh,
gosh, you like
fun.
South Korea.
And I love South Korea.
Yeah.
I can say South Korean things to them. Yay. Wait.
And let's see. So why do you think our relationship is important? Or just like from the cultural standpoint, 'cause obviously, parent relationship is always important.
Well,
We're bridging the generation.
Well, I guess the way I could ask it honestly too is like I just like from like adopting me, like why is it important to have like a relationship? I guess like through adoptions, too in a culture. Yeah, why is it important to have adoptions from different countries in a culture? That's kind of
that'd be a good
Oh, that's
answer
a
to the
good
question.
answer.
Because that's where we really, really learn that we're all the same. That all human beings are the same, that the skin color and all that stuff has nothing to do with happiness, joy, love, anything, really.
Yeah,
Everybody's capable.
because I grew up kind of like, I mean, I don't really keep in touch with them very often, but like, I grew up kind of like with the, a lot of kids that were adopted, which was interesting, like
Yeah.
Yanni, and then like, Ellen, uh, and who else? Yeah, I mean, just different cultures like that. I mean, I just remember always going
Huh?
over to,
Well, you're a friend in North Dakota, South Dakota.
Riley.
Riley.
oh yeah, Riley, yeah, Riley, yeah. But yeah,
Yeah, because he was interracially adopted. And so Janie was, you didn't see her much, but yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, we always tried to connect you with other adopted kids from other cultures, so you'd feel like you had a group to be part of in some sense. Anyway,
I remember the first time we took you to a restaurant in the cities and we went into, I think it was a Thai restaurant in the Twin Cities. And of course, all of a sudden everybody has dark hair that was in there and, darker skin and whatnot. And you were still in a high chair and your head was just going the whole time. You didn't care about the food. You were just looking at these people who were coming at you because here you were coming from Brainerd where everybody was white and you stepped into a different culture and it was intriguing to you. And I would love to have been in your head at that time as a little kid to hear what you were thinking.
yeah.
I just remember that.
Yeah.
Well, let's see.
Yeah.
Well, I think that is all the questions I have for you guys. But I
How
want
do we do for time? How do we do for time?
I'm just looking at my little time left button, and it just popped up about a minute ago, and
Okay.
it says I'm at 22 minutes, right?
Oh,
21
no
minutes,
kidding, we
18
did it.
seconds. So
And yes, we did it.
I'm proud to hit the time mark, and yeah,
yeah, good
but
for
now,
you. All right,
Good
good.
So-
interview.
yeah, I think it's something I've learned from these interviews too. Just on a different note, it's just the fact that like when you're doing like these recordings of yourself, it's just you talking, it's not interviewing someone. They go by so much faster. I mean, just in general, because like when I'm doing like these 2 to 5 minute like discussion posts, it's like I do a 2 minute thing and I just talk for about it. And it's like, oh, it's already been 3 minutes.
Yeah,
I gotta like now I gotta talk about 3 things I learned from
yeah.
you.
Talking
Oh,
is much
And
better.
culturally, interestingly enough, this is being interviewed and interviewing people is not from my culture. It's not from my time frame. You know what I mean? You did it because you were a teacher, but I didn't
There you
have
go.
much of that in my life.
There you go. Well, thanks, Andy. It was a pleasure. You did a
Yeah,
good job.
thanks.
so wait, do I click stop recording or pause? Let's see. I think I click stop recording.